Prisons in Virginia have been facing staffing issues for years, with some officers and former inmates claiming the issue grew roots during the pandemic. Toward the end of 2025, Virginia's Department of Corrections had an 18% job vacancy rate overall, but that number is much more severe when it comes to correctional officers. Virginia DOC says by the end of October 2025, its eastern region had more than 40% of positions left open. Central Virginia had about a quarter of those spots unfilled. But in Western Virginia, just under 10% of correctional officers' roles were left open. That's where people like Nancy Crockett come in. She was a roving officer for 4 years, hired by River North Correctional Center, and offered more money to travel to Virginia's other understaffed facilities. She's involved in a lawsuit against the DOC, claiming negligence, discrimination, and retaliation.
There were several times I was left alone on the floor, and you talking about panic, you're outnumbered 60-1, but these guys are not in there for tax fraud. These are higher level prisons.
I reached out to the Department of Corrections to see if I could set up an interview with their new director, Joseph Walters. He was appointed by Governor Abigail Spanberger in January. Now, while the DOC did not set up an interview, they did respond to several questions.
When asked how they plan to address staffing issues, officials say these challenges are not unique to Virginia. They say the DOC is ramping up recruitment efforts, like establishing pipelines with military transition programs, community colleges, and more. The DOC says it's evaluating the competitiveness of their pay and incentives.
Being paid well, they're not being treated well. There's really no incentive for them to stay.
Jesse Crossan is a writer, activist, and former inmate of the Virginia prison system. Arrested at 18 for robbery and a shooting, Crossan got his bachelor's degree and started a peer support program while incarcerated. He was pardoned by Governor Northam in 2021.
People I've talked to actually who have left the prison role and gone to go work at Hardee's or gone to go work somewhere else because they said, hey, at least here, like, I know what I'm signing up for. And I don't have to worry about being told I have to work 20 extra hours this week, or I don't have to worry about, something crazy happening, or I don't have to worry about a lockdown, I don't have to worry about a stabbing.
Crossan says the understaffing doesn't just make things dangerous for officers, it makes it dangerous for everyone.
The lack of oversight can cause problems. Additionally, it's just a lack of programming, a lack of essentially meaningful activity. So people start to get more and more restless or more hopeless or more kind of lost. And there's always somebody who will fill that gap with drugs or with gambling or with something else. But eventually it does lead to violence. If you look at, Jeremy Hall, he's a perfect example. He was there, it was short-staffed and it was not a good thing. And he was being told to call chow and call pill call at the same time. He was being told to violate policy.
Crossan is referring to information from a lawsuit filed in part by the widow of Officer Jeremy Hall, who was killed at River North Correctional Center last year. The DOC says he was attacked by an inmate. The suit alleges River North was staffed below minimum levels the day of Hall's death and includes a resignation letter from a former employee who warned leaders that such conditions could lead to someone being, quote, severely injured if not killed.
So is a staff shortage issue worth how many people are going to be stabbed this year or next year because of a staffing shortage? I was told in the academy, I graduated the academy with honors, but I was told in the academy that if the DOC got any shorter that they would be bringing in the National Guard. So I'm asking the whole time as we're getting shorter and shorter, where's the National Guard?
When asked for their response to claims that understaffing is leading to policy violations, the DOC says the agency makes every effort to follow all agency operating procedures. And when asked if the DOC could ask the National Guard for help, I was told that it would supplement staff from other facilities and other state public agencies before considering that request. The data from last fall, right before Hall's death, says more than a quarter of corrections officer openings across Virginia were unfilled. Crockett tells me she wants to be heard.
I don't get my mental health back. But I would love to not have PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And I don't want any other officer to go through this.
Crossan says the DOC needs to not only improve pay and benefits, but to give officers back their purpose, the potential to change lives and make a difference behind prison walls. Rian Lowndes, WFXR News.